smoking, now enjoy the program. Thank you for being part of the Cigar Club fam.
What's going on, Cigar Club family? Welcome back to another Cigar Club podcast. I'm Pugh. Joining me, as always, is Griff Howie. Thank you so much for tuning in and listening every week, as well as leaving your thoughts and feedback below on each each episode. Whew. Top of the dome's never easy.
Come on.
If this is your first time joining us, thank you for tuning in. The Cigar Club podcast is where we talk about all things cigars with you, the Cigar Club family. Today, we have an extra special guest live on location. We have Darren with Principle Cigars. We're just going to be smoking some new releases, talking about some upcoming projects maybe, and really just hanging out, having a good time in front of your beautiful house on this wonderful porch here. But before we do jump into it, Griff, as always, how you doing, and what are you smoking, buddy?
Top of the afternoon to you, Pugh. This place.
Gorgeous.
It's awesome.
I'd never leave the house.
Brentwood, Tennessee. Maybe 80 degrees. What do we think, 80?
Yeah, high 70s.
Yeah. High 70s.
Slight breeze out of the east. Just kidding, I have no idea.
That was the northwest.
Northwest.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's absolutely gorgeous. I would live out here, as Darren does. But I'm smoking from the prior podcast, which may be coming out in Thursday in a September near you. Decien, which I thought you were going to smoke, but you decided to go a little bit of a different route.
I wanted to switch it up here, rather, and I grabbed one of the newest 10th anniversary cigars here. Darren, if you could give me, well, first off, thank you for joining us.
No, please.
What are you smoking?
I'm also smoking the leftover cigar from the previous podcast. We should have changed our shirts or something to make it look like different day.
They'll forget.
Yeah.
Well, they'll forget me. They won't forget you.
We need a continuity guy, too, to make sure the cigar
Make sure, exactly. Yeah. What do I have in my hand here? Because I've already forgot.
You have white gold.
White gold.
Yeah.
And this is a brand new coming out for your 10th anniversary line, correct?
Yeah, it just came out. It's what white gold is, we have this gold band. The gold band project was something we started years ago, where it's a cigar where we change the blend pretty frequently. It's they've so far always come out of KBF, and we would oftentimes have like a great blend that we had nothing to do with, or especially with Hendrick, there could be like a tiny amount of tobacco that maybe you have enough binder for a few hundred cigars or something like that. So we started making always in a 6x50 format, just whatever, and we would put these gold bands on it. And a few years ago, we also launched Black Gold, which was when Hendrick first started working with some San Andres. So we made a Maduro gold band. But we had, like, back in the day, at one point in time, there was a Connecticut gold band. And just a lot of people kept asking me, hey, do you have any more of that Connecticut one? Or, like, they would reference it, like, an unusually frequent amount of times. I would hear people say something about the one Connecticut gold band. And we make some other great Connecticut, so it definitely stuck out that people would cite that one cigar.
Sure.
So we looked it up and figured out what it was. And for the most part, we had all of those tobaccos. We started playing with it and made one little change in the filler that I think was for the better, but we just decided why not have a white gold? Because it was just a natural progression. We could please those folks that really like that Phantom cigar that came and went. And it would just be a nice addition to the line. And so it was born this year.
Will this be a regular production release?
Yeah.
Or is it, okay,
yeah,
excellent.
so we have the regular gold band, black gold, and white gold. On paper, the black gold and the white gold will not change so all the time like gold band is changing.
Okay, excellent.
Hopefully a more productionized process, but definitely still dynamic in some sense.
And
we launched a podcast this morning that we filmed yesterday. It was our draft pick, 5 cigar draft pick, and my Connecticut on my list.
Is that like a sports thing?
yeah.
Well, it's a sports thing converted into a cigar thing. It's real technical. My Connecticut for my draft was the Accomplice Connecticut.
Thanks, man.
I absolutely love that cigar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but I guess this was just not even in my
Well, I hadn't had this one before.
stratosphere of knowledge.
Yeah, same.
So I'm excited to try that as well.
It was like, we have Martinique, which is already like our high-end Connecticut, for lack of a better word, for, sort of like an Aviator style, but in a Connecticut. And so it wasn't like screaming out that we needed to have a new like ultra premium Connecticut, but the blend is different enough, and it's the format is obviously, there's no Martinique are all more elegant sort of traditional formats like Lancero, Corona Gorda, whatnot. And we'll eventually have a Corona. But
Oh, nice.
yeah, we just figured this will be more effervescent, more bright, and you know, a different enough product where there was definitely both room in the line and room for it to be differentiated enough and maybe enjoyed by a slightly different person than that's going to Martinique.
Now, 6x50.
Uh-huh.
You mentioned with the gold that you would do the 6x50 Toro. Is there a reason why? Is that or that you would gravitate towards that Vitola?
Well, because with the gold band in the very beginning, we did a bunch of weird stuff. Like if we made anything wacky, we'd stick a gold band on it and put it out there. But then we decided let's make it more standardized, and it's only going to be one size. So that's like the size that we can do the most with, right? Like most things you can convert into a 6x50, and you can use a lot of different tobaccos. I mean, you can't use some of the stuff that is only for really small cigars, but that's not that big a pool. And we wanted a size that, because it's changing all the time, is going to please the most people. And we just felt like that was it. Like that was the sweet spot, And also it was designed to be kind of like, it's right alongside Aviator, right? Like, so a lot of these blends and these ideas are coming out of that Aviator blending process. And so we wanted something that was kind of going to be an average of those Vitolas and at a slightly lower price point than most Aviators.
Yeah.
And that was just kind of the size that made sense.
Makes sense. That's interesting because, I don't know, when I approach a new blend or if I'm thinking of a blend, it's not that I necessarily sit down at a blending table, but usually I'm like, hey, can we try this in a 5x50? Just because that's typically what I associate with being able to go up or down in ring gauge or size.
5x50, like if you know me, I'm not a Robusto smoker. Like,
we were just talking about that.
It's just too short for me, and
And I'm a Robusto, Corona Gorda, Corona guy. I mean,
we
just all me.
Tend to smoke Corona Gorda
fine.
I actually find myself smoking less and less Robustos anymore.
Really?
If it's going to be 5 inches, it really needs to be a narrow ring gauge for me. Like once it gets to be 50, I need more length. Like I'm just too fast, and it's just too much energy to. For me, smoking is very social. So it's one thing if I'm at night having dinner, having a cigar, but like with you guys, I'm going to sit around here bullshitting all night. Like I want something that I don't have to think too hard about.
Sure. Absolutely.
That's going to stay cool without me like being all into it instead of the conversation. And for me, that means a longer cigar and
makes sense.
Probably a tighter ring gauge. Yeah.
Yeah, you're gonna have to smoke this. This is incredible.
I know. I'm debating.
Change it up, man. We got a lot of cigars.
I see him eyeballing the Flechette.
I've been eyeballing it. I think we really got to talk about this. This is a cigar I was telling you, Darren, that I smoked from our hotel in Vegas to
the meat place.
Yeah, Argentinian meat shop, steakhouse place. This cigar is unreal.
It's crazy.
And there's nothing like it.
And that cigar was a complete accident.
Okay, I did not know that.
Yeah. We, the cigar he's talking about.
Yeah, let's tell them.
There's a new line called Petit Provocateurs. We haven't announced it, even though it's been, here and there, people have had samples. It's out in a couple of European markets, but we're just about to make an announcement and release in the U.S. And the first line we call Flechette. It's a 26x6. And the only reason we have it is because we have these archive collection projects where we're using antique materials and whatnot. I have a bunch of little cigarello boxes from like 1920s. About 1,000 of them. They're like a cool Art Deco box called Acta Non Verba. And so I wanted to make a cigar to go in these antique boxes.
Smells good.
So good.
And we were measuring them, and we figured out, okay, it's like a 3-inch cigar, but 26 ring gauge was the size. And I brought the boxes to the Dominican because I was going to have somebody that has a machine. I was just going to make some simple machine made stuff to go in there. And one guy said to me, "Well, why don't you let me hand make them for you?" And I'm like, "Well, I mean, I'm open to it. It'd be more interesting,
Yeah.
So we made some samples, and he just grabbed whatever was out. Like it's 3 tobaccos, 1 wrapper, 1 binder, 1 filler, and it was just what was on the table at the time that we tested the molds with.
Really?
That's it. And I said to him as he was going down to make the samples, I'm like, "Hey, do me a favor." I asked how long the molds were. They went up to 6. I'm like, make me, and even at that moment, we were thinking medium filler. I said, make me a few long filler and do it the whole 6 inches. He's like, okay. So he brings me back 3 cigars, puts them in front of me. I light the first one up, And right away, like, I can't believe how good it is. And you just, it's 3 leaves, so you don't know, right? Anything could be great.
Absolutely.
And but it was so enjoyable. I just smoked it through. And then I pick up the second one to just see, like, did the dog pee on that one leaf and it was great or whatever. And no, second one immediately was as good. And so he's looking at me and he's like, if you don't mind, I'm going to smoke that third one. I'm like, of course. And so he lights it up and just immediately looks up at me. I'm like, right? He's like, holy shit.
It's unreal.
So we go downstairs. We immediately make a full mold of 20 more cigars. Get in the car, go over to Hendrick's. And Hendrick, 10 years we've been making cigars. Like, this guy, he will not... Rarely will he smoke an entire cigar through that he didn't make. Almost never.
Really? Interesting.
This, in fact, is probably the first time I saw him finish a cigar that did not come from his factory. Even his own stuff, he's not smoking through. He's tasting.
Sure, yeah. I mean, I can't imagine.
And when the other guy left, he looks at me and goes, Darren, that's a good cigar. I'm like, I know, man. Like, that's why we raced over here. Normally, he'll be like...
And that was fresh right off the table.
Right off the table. Even if he likes it, he might be like, interesting, and then that's it. It goes in.
Interesting.
But more likely, you're going to get the whole like, well, it's not for me, but if you like it, that's what's important.
Oh, God,
that's like 9 out of 10.
Kill me.
So then I knew we were on to something. But it was it was whatever tobaccos were out. So we go back and now I'm like, well, let's make it really incredible. So we tried all kinds of other combinations trying to get this thing better.
Yeah.
And nothing worked like that original.
Oh, magic right off the bat.
So we go into production on it. And then I start smoking one. And a buddy of mine who's a retailer, I sent some to him. And he's like, you know what? I'm not jerking off over this cigar like I was last time. And I'm like, you're right. There's like something not quite right here. And I'd started the production. So we're trying to figure out, it's only 3 leaves. Like, what did we do wrong? Why is it not as good? Well, the wrapper came from a farm where a portion of the farm is processed by the grower themselves. And then a processor in the Dominican also buys tobacco from that farm and then they process it themselves. Mm-hmm. The original ones, we used the tobacco that was processed by the grower. And then when we went to production, same field, same tobacco, same everything, we used the locally processed tobacco, which on paper should be better, but it just didn't work. It had like some kind of harsh element that just wasn't.
Interesting.
So we tossed the entire production, went back with the original stuff, and now it's finally creeping out. I have I think maybe 5,000 finally ready to come to the United States. We've been sending them to Europe, but
I got to buy a box of 50 before I go. I mean,
I don't even have that yet.
This is
right. Well, when they do
this
come.
is like deja vu to Vegas.
These 5 are like
bitch, this is
10% of what I have.
This
in
is
stock,
insane.
I just had an incredible realization that I have smoked that cigar before. It was not banded. You were kind enough to send me a few samples.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
I literally, I'm thinking about it, and I was like, wait a moment.
What's the time and place for you with this cigar?
That's a great question, and that's why I love that cigar, because if you think about all the different times when you smoke in life, here's when that cigar fits in. You want something with coffee in the morning?
Yeah,
perfect.
I was just thinking that.
Yeah.
You want something like I don't smoke a lot while I work, mainly because like if I get focused for a moment, the cigar might go out.
Yeah.
If I relight it, it's
All the
ashy,
time.
weird, whatever.
Yeah.
This thing is 26. Like you can light it in a half a second with a Bic,
Yeah.
and you're right where you left off. No ashiness, no nothing, right?
Yeah.
So it's a great work cigar. You get to the lounge, you don't quite know what you want to smoke yet. You smoke one of these first.
That's a really good.
Think about, and it's a full flavored cigar.
It
So
is.
like maybe you've been smoking all night. Maybe there's time for one more, maybe not. It's the perfect one at the end of the day. You think about the European countries where they're like going outside and smoking on the street, especially when it's colder. What more perfect Vitola?
Damn.
Yeah.
And for me, it's like I said, I don't like Robustos. It's a Robusto killer because I smoke a Robusto. Maybe it takes a moment for the whole thing to like get all the tobacco burning and I'm getting the full recipe. By the time it kicks in, maybe I've got 20 minutes before it's like too hot or just out of balance. This thing is a 40-minute smoke. I mean, I know it looks small, but it's 40 minutes of smoking, but it's 40 minutes of smoking at optimal.
It goes right to where you want it to
It
be.
goes right to where you want it. It's not going to like transist and take you on this journey that changes, but
Sure.
you light it, you got it all. It stays with you right to the end, and it's all there until you put it out. So for me, it's like 30 to 40 minutes of truly enjoyable smoking experience where I got full flavor, full volume of smoke, everything I want out of a cigar.
I'm still amazed that I just made that real connection that I've had smoked that before. And I don't I mean, granted, I don't think I know too many 26 ring gauge cigars, if any at all, outside that. But
Zero for me.
If I were to think of those, I would assume they're not long filler. That they're either mixed
that
or
was our
short
inclination
filler.
to put a medium filler. Yeah,
That's. Is there any more? Is that any more or less difficult to roll, being one leaf of each?
yeah. I mean, it's you don't want them to be there. You don't want them to be too spongy, obviously, because you need them to be well packed. But then you're on a
I mean, not at all. Not even hot.
like, for example, we have one woman at this factory. All she does is Lanceros, right? Like she sits there all day, makes Lanceros. She's a master, and she couldn't even roll that. So it takes a really special person that can work at that like tiny ring gauge with the hand feel to keep it right.
Oh, there's nothing to that. You could hold that all day.
There's no squish. There's no heat.
No, it's solid, and that's the thing. It's about
yeah.
That's
This is impressive.
I think we did an episode a few weeks ago where we were talking about like quality construction and stuff like that. I mean, and we had a cigar. You couldn't do this for more than a quarter of a second.
No.
And we smoke fast on a podcast, but we're still slower smokers than normal. And I always think that speaks to how well a cigar is constructed. If you can smoke pretty quickly and still be able to hold that cherry and not burn yourself. So you back in Vegas right now, driving the Jeep?
Yeah, yeah, I am. This cigar is just incredible. I mean, what a piece of art.
I think the two things that really stuck out to me is sitting down, not sure what you want to smoke yet. Kind of use that as almost like a
starter,
an appetizer.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
you got maybe 20, 30 minutes left. You don't want to necessarily light up something that's going to take longer than that. Finish a night on something like that.
And
I
the
think
price point, like it's U.S. MSRP in a place where there's no taxes, $6. It's $6 that's going to smoke. It's going to give you, in my opinion, twice the smoking time of a Robusto.
Well, and like you said, it jumps right into where you want it. You're not getting that first third where you're like warming up to it. It starts the party right away.
It's a no-nonsense cigar. And like part of me, like I really wanted to use the branding we used on it. It's very Art Nouveau. Like the inspiration was like old French perfume branding. And like I have a big inventory of old perfume labels. It's something I love. And we don't have any Art Nouveau product. And so I wanted to play around in that area, but it's so feminine and soft. But the cigar is so full flavored that I was a little bit nervous about it. But at the end of the day, I just decided, fuck it. I like the cigar. I like the branding.
Yeah.
We're going to do it.
I mean,
you have a little thing for paper, right?
Yeah.
You're kind of a paper.
I'm paper guy first, cigar guy second.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's paper was where it all started.
Yeah. I mean, old cigar advertising is what got me in cigars.
Man.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. I just love this thing. It's so badass.
Not to continue to talk about that cigar because it is amazing, but it's just so different, right? Yeah. I mean, it's something that I've never seen before, especially being...
Davidoff had a 26, maybe by 6.
Interesting.
I know Casada had years ago, they had a 4.5 inch and a 26. I don't think they make it anymore. So like here and there, but it's definitely not something you saw out there. Yeah.
And I mean, why not? I mean...
it's perfect.
So
what should we talk about next on this table? I'm eyeballing one thing. It might not be the thing we should talk about, but we can.
I can.
What are you eyeballing? We can just cut it out if it's not what we want to talk about.
I'm eyeballing that 9.5 by 46 over there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I'm gonna have to tell the same story that I told on the 20-minute podcast.
Yeah. Well, up to you guys.
I got a different angle. I can.
Yeah, I mean,
I got a little bit of a
this is laid back. This is hanging out.
I'm assuming you're going to cut this part. It's a different consumer anyway, so not everybody that watched the 20 minutes.
No, absolutely. And
let's let it rip.
Yeah, and I wasn't a part of it, and and we talked about this cigar after PCA. We went through our bags and kind of talked about things that we hadn't had a chance to smoke yet, or maybe we got another one after we smoked. These made it back home. I was beyond nervous that I was going to come and it was going to be 2 cigars or
it looks
ripped in half.
If
Yeah.
you put it in the pocket, it looks completely ridiculous.
And so both of ours made it home. We pulled these out and we talked about these. We're probably going to do a podcast where we smoke these and probably chop it up so it hits the full burn time of it. But this is a 9 by 46.
9.5 by 46.
9.5 by 46 double Corona. What's where did this start from? And can you tell us a little bit more about it?
We wanted to have a 10th anniversary Aviator. This is not officially launched yet. We have them here, but it's a cigar that really I made for me, and especially in terms of the format, because I like, socially especially, I like larger cigars.
Yeah.
But like it's not that I dislike big ring gauges. I have to spend more energy focusing sometimes on not puffing so much or regulating the temperature on a cigar like that. But a 46 by 9.5 is fighting me back the whole way. And this, in many ways, it's like the opposite of the Flechette that you're smoking. Flechette is a cigar that you can abuse, relight, whatever. it's gonna, fight you back and be okay. The thing about the Espoir is it fights you back in terms of, the length and keeping itself cool, but it's like a Stradivarius. Like, I don't want to be like too lofty of a analogy, but like, the thing about those violins is that there's some crazy glaze that he used. That's what makes them so special, right? Like the glaze was some recipe that he's probably using dead bugs or who knows what.
Exactly.
And so nobody can figure out what it was. But they have to be played. Like you have to keep them alive. You can't just put a Strat in an attic and then
expect it to.
Yeah. That's why the families that own them have them placed with musicians. They're using them regularly.
Yeah.
Because it's something about the vibrations are keeping that glaze like alive in a certain way. And the Espoir is really like that. Like as you're smoking, it's so long. It's really like playing a musical instrument. Like you're kind of in tune with that thing. And it's like a two-way street. Like it's almost like you're smoking with another entity. Without sounding ridiculous, I really feel like that.
That's kind of that's beautiful.
I've never said that before because it sounds ridiculous. But in my head, like that's what I always felt smoking that cigar.
I think we gotta.
Who we got?
Do we know this person?
I'll tell you in 2 seconds.
Should we duck and run?
It's my assistant's brother, probably picking her up or something.
Okay, so we don't have to duck
She's
and
on
run.
Third floor.
So, I don't think I've ever smoked a 9.5 by 46 or anything that long. You said is there, as you're smoking the cigar, how do you work with a cigar to give you, question. Making sure it's cooperating with you? You said it's kind of this give and take. The cigar's working with you.
Yeah,
what are you?
I find
trying to think how to word that.
It's just like, do you want to, for the first portion of the cigar, I'm treating it in a certain way. I feel like I'm doing what the cigar wants. And then I get to a point where the cigar's like, okay, I like this guy. And he starts opening up to me. Oh. And then it takes over the control. And now I'm getting the cigar's leading me.
Okay.
It's ridiculous. But like, I feel like I'm leading the cigar in the first portion. And then suddenly it's like picking an animal up in the shelter, right? Like they're all timid at first. You convince them and then finally they're on board.
So there's a point where you're no longer thinking about
how
to make sure this is burning regularly. Am I puffing too fast? To your point, because you want to smoke this socially, you don't want to have to necessarily sit there and think about the whole cigar the whole time.
There's a certain harmony that you have to influence, and you have to help bring the harmony out.
Yeah, I've got to say, which we'll get into it probably after this, but I don't even know if I've seen someone smoking a size like this.
Also, the thing about it is, like, if you're holding it, at first it looks ridiculous.
I think we'll all get used to it.
As soon as you smoke an inch or something, it just looks like a Churchill. It's not.
Oh, that's true.
It's only ridiculous for like 20 minutes.
15, 20 minutes.
Like you said, you're walking around waiting to smoke and it's just hanging out your pocket.
It's like, I heard this guy on the radio once. He was a kid. He had a Pontiac Fiero. You know what a Fiero is?
I'm not a car guy.
I'm too young.
Okay, it's like a crappy old Pontiac sports car. It's very small from like the 80s. You never see any of them, so that means it was probably crappy. But anyway, it was a small, low car. And the kid had the Fiero, and he saw some girl he knew. So he had a conversation with the girl, and then he turns back to go back to his car. And somehow, like the way he turned, the antenna of the car like went right up his nose.
Oh, my God.
And so it knocks him out. He's on the floor like this, and the paramedics come, and his life was saved because one paramedic realized that it was not blood there, but it was brain fluid that was coming out of the kid.
Jesus.
So like it just poked him enough where it popped that membrane, and like another half an inch, you'd probably be dead, right?
Yeah.
But they got him to the hospital. They saved his life, and I heard him on the radio when he was laying in the hospital bed, and he said, "I can't even imagine what it would be like if I sneezed or laughed at this point." And when you're walking with it in your pocket, it's kind of like that.
Yeah, because you're not sticking that cigar in your pocket or a case.
I can't wait to light it up.
I know. I'm really excited about it.
That's a big cigar.
Now, I'm going to assume this is going to be just a one-time release with...
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. Yeah. I mean, it's just so taxing making that cigar. Sure. There's only so many tobaccos you can use that will go the length. You know, you can't just be like, let's use Katui. You know,
No,
you
yeah.
have to use, you know, and we all know right now what's going on with tobacco. So like making that cigar and making it at a high level is a very, very difficult thing to do, and certainly cannot be productionized like. I mean, I think our entire production one was like between 2,000 and 3,000 cigars. So
Wow.
we did
Yeah.
it once, and you know, we'll see. But for now, it's a 10th anniversary one-off.
Can we get a little nerdy about this? How do you, when you approach this blend, how can you, is it the same tobacco layering throughout, or are you putting certain primings here, certain primings halfway through, or, you know, essentially I get,
It's all long filler. I mean,
Gotcha.
the leaves are the entire run of the cigar.
gotcha. So it's going to be,
Yeah.
I didn't know as far as placement, I guess
No,
this
it's
is
a
the way to think. Yeah.
traditional Dominican.
Did you have to make those molds, or did those exist?
A Swiss guy for a small Swiss release was making them, and so I asked if I could use them for this project, and we used them. So we didn't have to factor in the cost of a brand new set of molds.
Yeah.
Because to make 2,000 cigars, that would
Yeah,
Yeah.
that would
So
really,
we just kind of lucked out on you know, an end user was basically making some cigars, so I borrowed his molds.
interesting.
That makes sense.
I know you said you had the lady doing Lanceros and she couldn't do the Flechette. Is there a difficulty in rolling something like this, or is it
Yeah, I mean,
pretty translate from, you know, like a Toro or a
It's
Toro
hard. I
extra
mean, I
kit?
think we only had one pair at KBF that we trusted for this, and
Wow.
that's why we had to go in production in January. Like
Mm-hmm.
it was the first thing we made when the factory opened up. When you start in January, you want to put people on a cigar that they're anyway going to have to pay more attention to, right? Because like people have been drinking for 2 weeks, partying with the family. Like you don't want to start them on a Toro or a Robusto. You know, you want them to like they're going to be slow anyway. So you want to like give them something that is going to anyway take attention, and they're going to be going slowly just until they get back.
kind of
into the
warmed
feel of
back up
things.
and used to it. Yeah.
So that like first January, like mid-January, whenever we opened, like that was the optimal time to make something crazy like that. That was going to be tough.
Yeah. That's like, that's not an aspect of it that I would have thought about. I would assumed you would have put them on something maybe they were more used to, like a Robusto or a Toro, but you don't necessarily want them to speed through that when they're not kind of back to.
Like it, you know, a Toro, like they're naturally going to be a bit faster, or Robusto they're going to be faster, and so you don't want to. You don't want to put them on an efficient cigar while they're going to be clunky in their
Yeah,
movements.
because they may make mistakes, and you don't
Whereas
want that.
this, they're going to be slow anyway.
They got to slow down. They got to think about. You're forcing them to slow down almost.
Exactly.
Is the time and place for this evening right there with dinner?
You know, I've been hesitant.
Surely
like,
that's happened.
I told you the story. Like these definitely went through a sick period,
Yeah.
right? And so like with aviators, most aviators, they take a little bit of a dip. Like these took like a significant dip. So that's one of the reasons why we've held them back. Like they're getting better and better every month. So I've not been in a rush to get them on the market, and I've not been in a rush to smoke them myself, except for like periodically. And it's been a few weeks since I had one, so I'm looking forward to smoking it again with you guys now.
I think there's something. I think that's almost a lost art of giving it time. Mm-hmm. I think there's been a few releases that I've smoked that have come out, and I'm like, it just. I use the word young. Maybe it's not always young, but it's just like, God, I just want this to have just a little bit more time to simmer down or get to the place that it needs to be. And I get there's a lot of factors that go into it, but
like Hendrick is like in a sense immune to that, right? Like that's the one factory where like you can't make a bad cigar, and you can't make a. It's just the one place where everything is so old and so nice to begin with that like almost everything is good off the table. Some blends just need the time, but like aviators just don't need, if every tobacco in there is 5 years old, they don't need the melding time that
exactly.
like,
they've done their resting period.
They've done their you know, like, okay, yes, the cigar needs to rest, but you don't need to sit it down for 6 months a year to enjoy it at like
After
damn
rolling.
near optimal level, like you might something else.
Yeah, and I to the point of that is I appreciate when someone is like, hey, these need just a little bit more time.
No, but these, it was obvious. I mean, it was like it hit me in the face. Like off the table, they were. Like I said, I was ready to retire from smoking everything. They were incredible.
I want to experience that because in my head, I'm like, you smoked. You're at the blending table all the time, but in my head, I'm like, man, what would that drop off?
Yeah.
Be.
Yeah.
I think that'd be really cool to experience.
It's always nerve wracking. Like on cigars,
gotta be.
There's some tobaccos you don't have experience with, right? Like when you're working with tobaccos that you are used to, you might pretty much know how a cigar is going to age. Not always, but you have a good idea. but sometimes you're shocked, and like this really shocked me for like the tobaccos we used, the style of cigar, everything. Like the drop was, I think, more significant than anything I ever made there.
Yeah. Wow.
And
what was the initial? Was it like, fuck, or was it all right? Back to it.
It's funny because like I remember the day in December when it was like 4 or 5 of us sitting around smoking, and Hendrik made the comment. Like I have a buddy who's a retailer who's like that guy that always wants everything to be cheap.
Yeah.
Like whatever I tell him, he's like less. Like
Yeah.
how much are these going to be? Make it less. Like he's that guy. And I had this down to 2 blends, and he was one of like the 4 or 5 guys sitting there smoking with me, and he's like, "What do you think this is going to be, like price point wise?" And I'm giving him side ideas, and like it has to be more than an Escopette or a Grand Pyramid, and but. And he was smoking the B one, the one that I didn't like as much. And this guy's just looking at it, and he's like, "Dude, this can be $50. I can sell this all day. Like, this is an incredible cigar. Like, the last guy on earth that thinks it can be expensive." And
so really, it's a $75 cigar.
from anywhere else,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And Hendrik made a comment that I'll never forget. Like, he said, "Wow, like all 4 of us, 5 of us, however, he's like, everyone loves what they're smoking right now. Like, I was just in heaven with mine. My buddy was in heaven with his. I forget what Hendrik and the other folks were smoking, but like everyone was just in a moment of zen. And I'm just thinking, this is it. I'm done. This is the only thing I'm ever going to smoke." But we're so excited to see where it goes.
That's
like,
awesome. We're really excited for
It's
that.
coming every month, better and better and better, and it's basically ready now.
That's fantastic. Has there been something that you've approached, smoked great on the table, but then it just didn't materialize after time? Or is it something that you usually can figure out and tweak to make it be as good as it was off the table?
The weird one was Brindille. Like Brindille is a 46 by 6 Aviator, has a closed foot and a pigtail at the top. And like it was always intended to be the most intense Aviator. We made the first production of Brindille, and we used Hendrik has some Banao that's like, now it's probably like 20 years old, over 20 years old. And we use that just on the foot. So when you lit it up, you get some of that like Banao taste on your... And it was a great cigar. And then when it came time for production number 2 of Brindille, he has a lot of that Banao. So I'm like, let's just use it for the whole binder. And so we'll give people a 20-year-old binder on Gen 2 Brindille. It'll be great. On paper, everything worked. Like this
Just 20?
cigar should work. So we didn't have to go. I mean, we tested a few, went into production, All we did was change the binder to a 20-year-old Banao. Like nothing should be wrong here. And then as the cigars aged, they just got wonky. Like some of them burned funny. Like it took damn near a year and a half, 2 years to like where now they're fine. But it was a major disappointment. Like you're talking, Gen 1 was, I thought, one of the best things ever made at that factory of anybody.
Wow.
Gen 2 took a big steaming shit, and it was and on paper, all we did was improve it.
Yeah.
And so that was maybe the biggest disappointment in terms of how a cigar aged, because it was only a month or 2, and they were all just having these problems. They were aggressive. They were like weird, harsh flavors that just made no sense.
Yeah. Because you knew how that tobacco should work.
And
it's not like you were just randomly throwing something in there.
No, we changed one leaf and we made it 20 years old. Like nothing.
That should be amazing.
And the leaf was in the original, So it just should have been, on paper, it was a slam dunk, but it was maybe the worst Aviator.
It's funny how that happens.
And so now we just finished
not funny.
the Gen 3 Brindille, which is is literally gonna ship next few weeks. We're packing now.
Oh wow!
And Gen 3, we tightened it back up. Got rid of the Banao, unfortunately, and
God.
And I think again it's going to be what it was designed to be, which is a more intense Aviator.
Wow. God. Yeah, you're going to enjoy this. This is a Connecticut you'd approve of.
Coffee cigar.
Yeah. Now we had a question, and this came up on the podcast we mentioned briefly or recently. I had the assumption that the Accomplice White Band was a Connecticut wrapper.
Accomplice Blue Band is Connecticut.
Wait, I thought it was purple.
Purple is Corojo.
That I knew, but I wasn't going to correct you.
We're all screwed up.
White
then.
is classic,
right?
It used to be it used to be a Brazilian Cubra wrapper, and I stopped calling it that because in Germany it was called Brazilian Habano, and I just said, look, we got to scale this cigar. Also in Germany, you can't call anything Habano.
That's us. We're okay.
So I'm like, let's just call it classic. Wait a sec. See this.
That's us.
Oh, that's you guys.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Okay.
That is a stranger deed.
So we changed it to Accomplice Classic, and originally it was that Cubra wrapper, but there's hardly any Cubra out there right now. It's not reliable. so when we first started making it, we would basically take the rejected Aviator wrapper leaf, that Corojo, and we would, like if it had a blemish or something, and we would use that as the binder on Accomplice. Because originally Accomplice Classic, the idea was, how do we make a cigar that's really affordable but also really good?
Yeah.
That's how we did it. And that was at a time when Cubra was in abundant supply, et cetera.
Gotcha.
Now the Cubra's still in there, but it's the Cubra binder, and we're using a Habano 2000 wrapper.
So it's a Habano 2000.
But I believe it's a better, like even, and we don't even make it at KBF anymore, and Hendrick even has said it's a better cigar than when he made it. Like, because the idea originally was, how do we make an affordable cigar at KBF?
Yeah.
And, it's Hendrick, right? So everything's going to be good. But then it was more of like an intent of like, how do we recreate this cigar and make it as good as possible? And I think we put a lot more intent when we moved it.
Sure.
And so, yeah, same characteristics, just everything is a little bit more round and flavorful.
Okay.
You're a classic Lancero freak.
I am.
We talked about this at PCA.
That is one of my absolute all-time favorite cigars. It is just incredible.
Thanks, man.
And we're actually going to be doing a podcast on
Actually,
it.
I sent you guys a box.
You sure
but
did.
I still have a few of the original KBF Lanceros. So if you like, you can side by side at KBF
Oh, that would be
Lancero
awesome.
Oh, that's...
and the current Lancero.
oh, yeah, we definitely have
That
to do
would be awesome.
That would be amazing.
And I mean, they're a few years old, so it's not really a fair comparison.
No, but just to see just how different that is.
Damn, that would be a lot of fun.
Yeah. No, when you said purple band, I should have, but I didn't want to
So
be
I guess
wrong.
we were
Yeah, so
we were all-
amend that. It's going to be, if you listen to the previous podcast, he meant the blue band.
Well, I'm also colorblind, to be fair.
Are you?
Yeah.
Blue and
So
purple
certain,
gonna kill you then.
things.
Well, you know
things.
what? Even if you can
I'm
see
using
blue
it
and
for
purple,
this.
yeah, I was about to say, you can pull that one out, no problem.
Yeah. This is yellow, right?
You had a really cool thing, and I hope you don't mind bringing it back up, of when we were down here. Well, we weren't, but when we were, CigarClub was back down with you in 2021. We were rewatching that podcast, and you had a really cool realization of the things that Darren talked about then, and I think that's pretty commendable.
I gotta say, I was re-listening to that podcast. Everything that you mentioned, what's exciting, what's up and coming, what are you most looking forward to, everything that you touched on, this being one of them, you've done. I'm like, that's no bullshit there.
Well, I really appreciate that. A.
I mean, no, congrats to you though.
Yeah,
like
because that's not easy.
B, I'm shocked to hear it because I have all these crazy ideas and who knows what I talk about. Like I'm an open book, so I talk about every silly thing that comes in my head. But at least I talked about things that we actually did.
You hit them all, whether they were already out or they're about to be out, such as the Tiki and the Cocktail Collection series.
yeah, I guess the follow-up question is, because we have to keep it now, we gotta.
Yeah, now you're on the spot.
Now we're coming back
we got
next year.
expectations.
Is there anything that you can divulge or share, maybe not, that you're looking forward to, that you want to do, that you want to get into, that you want to try for the rest of this year or early 2024?
We right now we have these 10 releases we're trying to get through.
Yeah.
The scope of Cocktail Collection has changed. We originally had designed these 5 cigars, and I did it with Reinhard Porch in Austria.
Mm-hmm.
We created these 5 cigars, and it was going to be, we were going to release tins where you get one of each.
Oh, cool.
For these 5 different cocktails. And we have so much going on and so many new things that I decided, let's change the focus, and Cocktail Collection will become something that we're just going to sporadically delve into, right? So like I decided we're going to we made a Tiki Toro that's an exclusive for Industrial for the new, we have a co-branded space they're opening in Dallas. And then we made this Tiki Robusto, which will be for everyone. And we're going to do it like that. So we'll have, if I get a whim, like right now I'm playing with a Lancero. I have one here. I'm going to give it to you. For the Sazerac, we call the beignet.
Yeah.
It's a little short double perfecto.
Yep.
I have a Lancero that I like so much. We have about 2,000 that I made that I'm playing with, and I'm thinking, let's do a Sazerac Lancero. And
Hell yeah.
the beauty of the Cocktail Collection now is just having it there as a looming thing that we can play with in that way and bring to market some exciting, interesting things that we're not going to feel the pressure to keep the production ongoing.
Absolutely, yeah. You can have you can make sure it's right.
Yeah.
Right, and inspire.
With the way the tobacco situation is, these things might not be right forever.
Yeah,
so
sure.
It's going to be a great way to have more fun with stuff that I don't have to just put a gold band on it and make a Toro. Like we can do some more specific, fun little things. Yeah.
With the approach to the Tiki, did you start with like a Mai Tai in mind and then work that way, or did you have a blend and you're like, wow, this is a really good blend, this may go really well with certain cocktails and then kind of tried the cocktails and see which one worked, or was it just kind of magic to
the first idea? Like, I was actually on a local guy has a podcast called Pod Tiki, and he talks about, he's just a cocktail guy, cocktail nerd, and he had me on one day to talk about cigars, and that's when I had the idea. I'm like,
That's awesome.
Cocktail collection, nobody's doing it.
Yeah.
So I called Reinhard, who's like maybe the biggest cocktail nerd in the universe, and I'm like, let's do this, and he was all in. And I'm like, okay, well, first step is, what are the 5 cocktails we're going to use? And, me, a branding guy, an art guy, I wanted to have things from different time periods so that we could play in the styles of those different time periods. And that's what we did. Like, we have the first one, which is like 19th century cocktail. Then we have a European era, like 1920s, 30s, and Tiki's mid-century, like the 1960s thing. And then we have like a modern era, 1990s. And so the great enjoyment for me is like playing in the designs to be true to those, to make products that look like they could be from those different time periods,
Yeah.
So we hammered that out first, and then I turned it over to him. I'm like, okay, before I start blending, you tell me like what are 2 things. One, the formats. What are the formats that are going to be in mind, in your spirit when you're having that cocktail? What might you want to be smoking in terms of size and shape, and also, more importantly, flavor profile wise, what's going to be important. And he made simple lists of both of those things. Like all he does is go around Europe and consult for like 5-star hotels and set up their cocktail programs. Like, he's the guy for this.
Yeah,
and,
that's incredible. Yeah, no kidding.
And when I read what his ideas were for Tiki, it reminded me of, like I told you guys before, this small run of cigars I had made in like 2016, 17 that I fell in love with. It was just like beachy. It was like a creamsicle. It was like light and beachy and gorgeous. And I said, let me play around with that blend for Tiki. And that was my starting point. And
that's great.
I love the cigar that we have.
That could be next, actually.
Let's do it.
Yeah, that could be next.
You want to try this real quick?
No?
Fair enough.
Later? Where are we on time? How's batteries?
Time to wrap it up, and all right.
All right, thanks, Darren. See ya.
No, Darren, thank you.
No, we could talk all night, which we are.
We will, yeah. Thank you for having us here again and giving us the time to sit down on your lovely property and
anytime
showing us the house, and you will hopefully give us a tour and talk about the new upcoming releases, all the 10th anniversary releases. I know I'm excited to see them all come out and seeing people talk about them, smoke them myself. Yeah. It's been a great 10 years. I can't wait to see what the next 10 years for you are going to bring.
Thank you.
You are one of my favorite manufacturers. You do an amazing, from box designs to branding, and the cigars themselves are always fantastic.
Thank you so much.
But before we do, where can everyone find you on Instagram, social media? Let them know.
Principle Cigars, real simple. Not a PAL, P-A-L, like the principal in the school. P-R-I-N-C-I-P-L-E cigars. .com, hashtag, whatever.
Excellent. Well, there you have it, everyone. We're about to light up. Griff has already gotten ahead of it. Light up the Tiki. We're going to have a wonderful night here, smoking cigars on this beautiful porch, and just having a good time. But thank you all so much for joining in. Until next time, everyone, happy smoking.
Cheers.